Hey everyone, what's going on? My name is Bakin, and I am super happy to bring you all this, the first ever super duper comprehensive official Skystreamers, wait no, official Just Add Bacon tier list, brought to you by myself truly. I am so happy to be here, even despite freak circumstances. I live in Texas, and it chose to snow today. So we're gonna see how this goes. I'm still on my god awful MacBook, but nothing's gonna keep me down. Nothing's going to stop me. Not even the fact that this was originally supposed to be Icicle's week, and I may or may not have threatened his family. I cannot confirm nor deny, but well, he will be back next week, probably bringing some quality content, while in the meantime, I am bringing you guys my opinions. I know. A perfectly fair trade. So to start this off, I'm just going to, for those who don't know me, and for other people, and also just to inflate my ego some, my name is Just Ed Bacon. I placed second in the second and fourth Sky Champions tournaments, I placed first. I am one of the beta testers for this card game called Skyweaver. It is absolutely freaking amazing. I am currently on my alternate account, sitting at rank 13, with a 77% win rate. So I think I kind of know my stuff. I mean, I don't play every deck, but I play a lot of things. Those things include Horic and variants of Horic. So take those biases into account. I'm going to be evaluating all of these decks, which I have deemed relevant in the meta, based on a high-level perspective. So this does not count for if you're a low-level player going up against other people, then I may say, oh, Fox Anima is F tier. But if you're a low-level player playing garbage decks, then Fox Anima might just run you over. Granted, even if you're a high-level player, it can still do that. But I'm going to be evaluating all of these, first off, in a hyper-competitive sense. In a tournament sense, I'm not going to really assume that you have element of surprise. I'm going to assume that everybody can pretty easily figure out what deck you're playing, because at these higher skill levels, that's generally what happens. Generally, you know what the other person is playing. However, as the open beta eventually gets here, that will not always be the case. So I will also, at the end of this tier list, be mentioning what heroes I think are the most threatening whenever you run into them on the mulligan, and how you should be planning for that, along with ways I think that you should be addressing these decks, whether or not you even should, and what decks in the meta help to counter those things. As for how I'm actually going to be ranking these decks, my opinions are this. First off, consistency. If you win 20% of games just automatically, and in the other 80% of games you just lose, I'm sorry, your deck sucks. That's not a good deck. That's you rolling a dice. That's not a deck. You're not going to get any good rank with that. You're not going to get any good tournament placements with that. Especially whenever you consider that those 20% of little auto wins are also that probably gets nerfed out after a week. I'm interested much more in decks that are just fundamentally good or viable right now, or even if they have overly broken things, that they still have just a cohesive and solid game plan. Secondly, I'm also going to be considering the matchups that decks have with other decks in the meta. So if you're playing an aggro deck that just absolutely demolishes all of these control decks, but nobody's playing that, everybody's playing even better, faster aggro, that aggro deck does not work. It doesn't matter how good your matchups against certain decks are if you never run into them. And finally, I'm also going to be looking at how much of a cheat factor your deck has, which is really just the ability to do just stupid things. The higher we get in these tiers, the more broken things are going to be up here, and the more these decks are going to fundamentally just break the rules of the game. They're going to do things that you think that can't work. That's so stupid. Why does that work? And then you're going to go, oh crap, my deck has no answer to that. Oh god, oh no. And then you're just done for. So with that little disclaimer out of the way, all these opinions are my own. These deck images and all of that, I scoured myself on Skyweaver. And we're also going to be running through these decks as I place them onto the tier list and why I believe that they belong there. So without further ado, I think that this game, for the most part, is like really freaking balanced. I have all of these differentiating tiers here because I like to separate things and make it clear so that way within the tiers, it's like, oh yeah, these guys are all basically the same, but then every tier is its own like little different spit of power. So there's only one deck that I think is F tier, and I think that like basically nobody plays it for this reason. But I wanted to make sure that like every like possible like hero was represented on this tier list. So first off, in F tier, I'm placing Mono Heart. Now, to make a quick point, I play Horic like all the time. This is my Horic control deck that I use for the vast majority of my things. If we go over here and if we look at the stats, it's like 23 heart cards and then like 7 strength cards. But like, I think Mono Heart is F tier. Why do I think this? Well, first off, what is the game plan for Mono Heart? It's Grave Royal. I'm sorry, there is no other really viable option for Mono Heart other than like some Grave Royal strategy. Because like you have all of your mummies, you have the Shiva Raise Arms, which is like dandy. You have your Flame Phoenix, and that can get you fireballs, which can become like a lot of damage, which is why the deck list I actually put together for this focuses mostly on repeating Phoenixes, because then you can get like 18 or 27 points of damage. It's like Jar Souls, Phoenix, Royal, maybe an Evermore. But like, just looking at this, you might notice that there is a minor hole in this deck, and that is the best, like freaking, these are your only hard removal cards, and Smite is like not great. On top of that, heart units just generally on their own do not really carry stats. Like Casket has good stats, Eclipse kinda has good stats, but like dies to banner, Cleo dies to banner, Flame Phoenix got awful stats, Albane is awful stats. And that wouldn't be so much of an issue if it wasn't like, okay, so you're playing Mono Heart. You're inherently going to be like a pretty dang consistent deck. But what are you consistently doing? You're consistently like stalling and cycling and like, ooh, like you have good AoE tools. Heart has got some pretty dang good AoE tools. They have some pretty good draw tools. But when you're playing a control deck, and you're playing a 20-card control deck, you're basically starting the game against every other control deck at like minus 10 on health. And on top of that, why would you ever play a Grave Royal deck and limit the number of units that you could be Grave Royaling? Like, for example, if we go back to my Horic control deck, with those extra 10 cards, we can fit in a lot more dangerous royal things. Like, we've got all of that there. We've also got, like, a Rumbo and a Hydrex. And I am a firm believer in the idea of threat density. There's a certain amount of cycling that a deck needs to have to be consistent, but if you put too much cycling into a deck, all of your threats just get removed. You can run more threats in a larger deck, and you can get away with having a lot more danger, especially as the game drags on and you start hitting more of your cards. Between like Horic Control, which is very, very good, and this guy right here, those 10 cards, and the ability for like putting in strength to fix that weakness of no hard removal is very important. Because like you can get absolutely destroyed if you don't have your hard removal. Like we have Wed Dead, but we really want that for ramping to try and get our draw off. So like that's just clunky. It's not really going to function. So like you kind of have to like resort to like AoEing through everything and like just trying to clog up the board with bodies. But then there's also another problem with just going Mono Heart, and that is this is easily like the most vulnerable deck to disruption you will ever see. Like it has disruption of its own, and like Raise Arms, like Chainstorm, but like one Raise Arms on you takes out like how much value out of your grave, your 10 cost card that you're building your entire deck around. Like, and that's just like one card. Like if you're going against Wiz decks, which I think are very, very relevant to be concerned about, you're going to be losing so much value throughout the game because all of your death effects are just going to get dusted, and that's like your entire game plan. But it just doesn't work. Like it's a neat strategy. Like, if you want to spam fireballs, you should really be playing CD. But other than Mono Heart, I genuinely just think that, like, that's the worst deck. That's the worst game plan. Once you're past that, stuff starts getting a bit better. So next up is another low tier deck, mostly to demonstrate another point of what I believe I'm going to call sub-optimality. So for those of you who saw the tournament, Zam won. And Andromeda OTK is, honest to God, just a way worse Zam deck. The way that this deck functions, for those who do not know, is that you have a card called Andromeda that your spells do 1 more damage. And then you go over here, you get your buddy Electron, and anytime you're playing a metal card, you're going to get a zap on it. That's just 1 point of damage. If Andromeda on board, that's 2. That is 6 mana that you cannot cost reduce for 2 points of damage on every metal spell. And this doesn't really run too many metal cards to begin with either. The AoE is slow. Wiz has got the best early game removal, just period. Like, if we look through here, Sentry Key just turns your entire hand in the banner. I've got no clue. This was submitted to me by Worfs, by the way. I've got no clue why Worfs is not running that broken card. You got your freaking Water Rooms. Eradicate just, like, obliterates so many things. It cleanly knocks out Plane Ranger. Let's see what else we got. Take Ritter's just handy. Whelm is really dummy in the late game, especially against control decks, because you just overflow their hand. Whisk Away is, like, so much value on such a cheap card, because you trade 1 for 1 on board. And then you put another card in your opponent's deck. If they had any death effect, you completely deny that. And then they have to draw that card again. So you go +1 for a 2-cost card, and in, like, the super late game, if, like, you guys are out of decking, and you hit them with Whisk Away, you just denied them an entire turn of, like, out of deck. Or if you Whisk Away, like, Casket, which I think is an incredibly relevant unit right now, you've just denied them so much value. This card is insanely good. You've also got, like, Incinerate. You also have Scorch. Burn to a Crisp is just good removal. Judgment, Moonbeam, goes through barriers, freaking hits Cube Jr. Like, none of your units are safe against a Wiz deck, and that's the one thing this has going for it. But, like, the downside is that this combo is just way too clunky. Like, you've got a Soul Forge here Andromeda, which means that, like, you have to go through and guru all of your mess, which means that you have to play a whole mulligan package when you could just be playing normal draw cards. And on top of that, like, so you get Andromeda, you get another Andromeda, and you get a Electron on board. That is 3 damage for every metal spell. Counterpoint, you could play a Zam, you could play an Electron, you could Illusion, since that is not in here. Probably should have looked over this list, maybe made some changes, but I didn't want to screw around with what people thought were, like, the best list of a certain deck. Yeah, you can, like, Zam, Electron, Illusion, Electron, and then that becomes, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, becomes 6 damage for, like, every metal spell that you're playing. And whenever you combine that with, like, Key and Salvage, that's just 1,000,000 points of damage. We saw in the tournament, Zam can really do, like, just all of the damage in the world. And this, like, Andromeda combo, I've tried working with it. This is just purely a suboptimal deck. So, yeah. Also, just, like, reiterating the point, for those of you who may just be arriving to the stream, I'm currently going over, like, the, what I think are the worst decks in the game. And I'm kind of explaining my philosophy on how I'm placing things. I don't think that there's really that many bad decks. I think that, like, Mono Heart sucks, and Andromeda OTK sucks. As we all see, though, I do have pretty good opinions of combo decks. Yeah, I understand that, like, Andromeda being targeted is good, but also Zam just does so much more damage that like, much higher damage is more than enough to make up for the fact that, like, you're going into armor on occasion. Yeah, Dracomanthium is an issue for it, but, like, you can also just play a little Jackrabbit, and then that's like, oh no, you spend 3 mana, and it's also, like, a metal spell, so, like, You get more damage, you deny their armor really cheap, you just play like Thought Leader, which you might already be running to get things like your Archivist if you're going for a Guru route, and you just get that for free. It's like armor is not the biggest issue. I think it was with the deck that Shapungo was running, but that's because he wasn't playing Jackrabbit. But other than that, moving on to our final solo tier deck is going to be, let me see if I can find it, Fox Control. My god, I do not know why people play this deck. To me, this is like the lamest way that you can possibly play Fox. Okay? So like let's just take a moment here. Just look through these. Fox is strength and agility. And honest to God, I think that Fox has got like the highest number of different ways that you can play his decks. Fox is like so cool. He has so many different internal synergies. Because like he's all about big units and also doing things fast. Which is like a cool combination. He's got draw power through like Blitz and stuff. He's got Pandora. He's got maybe Cache. He's got Fire Synergy. And you're just like, nah, I won't play like any of that. I'm just going to play a Fox deck with like an obnoxiously large top end. Maelstrom, because that's like broken. And it's like, I'll just jam a bunch of cards that are good for control into a deck, and then I'll just hope it works. So, if Mono Heart is like wanting to be a control deck that automatically takes damage at the start of the match and has got like no hard removal, then Fox Control is slightly better because it at least plays a full 30 cards. But this is a control deck with like no healing. And I'm sorry, this is Skyweaver. You're taking damage every turn you need healing. You have Cube Jr. Everyone and their mom runs something to deal with Cube Jr. You have Treasure Chest. Ooh, wow, 2 points of health. Light Ranger is going to fetch you a Lightning Vial, and like, that's it. You got Wrath, woo! And yeah, sure, occasionally in a game, you'll get like 9 health off of Wrath, and then you also just took Wrath out of your deck, which is a pretty important thing for control decks to have. Furthermore, yeah, Strength has got some pretty great AoE tools, and Agility has got some pretty solid single target removal. But my issue is, let's say that like you're running up against a like actually good aggro deck. Like we'll say the Heatwave Fox, which is like fire and air that AlphaSapphireX was running. And it's like, okay, all my units have Shroud, all my units have Barrier. You got Snap Trap, you got Claw Swipe, you got Foul Stench. Okay, but like you've got all these AoE tools, but like you can't just AoE every unit. There's simply, it's not going to work. Like, because this deck is very lacking in draw power. You have to hit like your Cache in the Treasure Chest, or like you've got to hit your Foul Stench, and then even then, ooh no, you're going to hit your Wrath, and like that doesn't help. It's like the deck is just fundamentally lacking in terms of draw, because believe me, you are not going to hit Cache consistently. Cache is a fickle mistress. It only shows up when you are already winning. And what are you going to do when like you pop your AoE spell on like turn 1 because they played like, I don't know, a Fox Familiar, and we'll say a Halcyon. It's like, okay, I Sunder, and then like I'll Strike Down. And it's like, okay, so now I play Cube Jr. Oh, Snap Trap, okay. And now I play another 3-drop, and now I play my 4-drop, and I'm going to, with Trailblazer, I'm going to draw more cards, and now I'm playing Hannah off of my Run Wilds, and like I'm just running through you, and it's like, this deck cannot keep up. This is not a deck that is capable of keeping up with any moderately fast aggro deck. If you're running this against Unophobia, you're screwed, because Unophobia is just here to draw a million cards and make your life horrible. And this deck plays like all spells. So like all they gotta do is drop Plane Ranger and you're done for. Now I will say Q combos, Speed Boots, and then like Norse Duvest or Titanic, like Dino Boots is just a hilarious combo. That's just like 11 damage on turn 14, which is so stupid. It doesn't really work. Granted, you might be able to like do it with Norse Duvest, or if you're really desperate, you could do it a bit earlier with Gusto. But other than that, this deck really does not have much. It's a lot of AoE spells jammed into a deck that is not playing control prisms. It's missing key parts of what make a good control deck in Skyweaver. Because you gotta have your AoE, of course. We've got that handled. But you also need to have healing, and you've got to be able to fight on board. Aggro decks are going to run over you if you cannot fight them on board. They do not care how many cards are in your hand. They care about what is stopping them from punching your face in. And this deck does not have much in the way of that. Moving on, we are now up into the mid tiers. And starting off with a hero who is, I think, really cool, but is criminally underplayed, I'm going to be placing Mira Leonidas. For those of you who do not know, Leonidas decks revolve around a 3-cost, 3/2 armored unit called Leonidas. Leonidas is a really cool card. It used to be an Agi, but also used to cost 4, so like he kind of sucked then. But Leonidas, basically, if I can find it. Yes, this is the alt account cards are locked. Leonidas, yeah, there we are. When another unit is summoned, give it zap. You might think, a zap? Like that's it? Yes. The cool thing about Leonidas is that he overwrites attachments for free and very immediately. If you've ever played a game against like a dominant Wiz deck, and they just like drop Amaruaf and then you just immediately lose, imagine that but like in an aggro deck. Because with Leonidas on board, you can start doing some really funny combos. Like Leonidas into a Grunk is turn 5, like you just get to pop all of your animas for free. And you start getting zaps, which lets you get around like stealth barriers. Starts letting you punch face, it lets you make like really efficient use of your banner. It lets you trigger like your Mushkas fast, which Mushka is a very good card. Turn 6, you can do this with Savage Garden. Do it with Rodent Problem. It's really just like an interesting card, and it really lets you speed up things, and it's a whole lot of aggression very fast. Now, the other thing that's cool about like Leonidas decks is that they really get to exploit their 1-drops, because they are one of the only decks that is able to run Rodent Problem. On top of that, they get to do a bunch of other cool things like Demon Pact, Gemini, and so they just like, they do some cool things. So like you get to run this pretty neat, aggressive, early opening game plan. You've got like an actual fair amount of draw power here. You've got some good stats. Int has got amazing single target removal, so you get to take advantage of that too. So what's the catch? There's a couple of things. First off, because you're not like playing Unophobia, you have to run a top end, which is kind of icky. Because like, why would I mean, I love Garuda. Garuda and Rumbo together are just like the dream, because like you Rumbo in something and then you drop Garuda on it and you buckler it up. Or like you Rumbo into like a Howlgeist or a Mushka. And it is dangerous because like you could Rumbo into Leonidas, but Rumbo is too good to not play. But also like having to have these cards up here, because like you have to have some top end. You can do some funny stuff with like Cation to a turn 6 Gemini. But other than that, you're kind of lacking on draw power, and I have seen some decks that try to remedy this. I've seen some decks that run like Tempest Brew, but like the whole point of this deck is like getting these anima combos. And so like if you're Tempest Brewing over them, you're losing a lot of your offensive potential. And I think it's much better to be able to run over things with like all of that anima. At the same time, like you do have some consistency through like a light and call to action finding your things, but like you kind of don't have too much. Like you really gotta hit your draws. You really gotta hope they don't like dust your Demon Pact or your Rumbo. You gotta make sure that like you're able to get off your Ghost Duster efficiently, and you've gotta really hope that like your Leonidas doesn't just get ripped off of your Rumbo and then you just lose the card. All things considered, though, I do think that this deck is like good. It's just that nobody plays it, so I can't really rank it higher. And thinking about it in relation to other control decks, where like they can just drop massive AoEs on you, and like they can just single target remove all of your big anima units, it's a cool deck. It has flaws, and I feel like those flaws are easily picked apart and picked on. Oh boy, that's going good. We will take a quick break to check the chat. Oh hey, we've got Euphrat, Grandpa, GoodDog, good to see you all here. We've got 7 viewers. And my computer is running at 60% CPU. Oh dear. See, I was planning on like taking like my money and like getting like an actual good computer. And then tournament happened. And I was screaming at Icicle, hey Icicle, let me stream. Icicle, let me stream. Icicle, let me stream. And he's like, okay. He just like gave up. And so now I'm here, a week ahead of schedule, and I never got around to getting rid of this garbage Mac. eventually we will get there. Until then, it's time for our next deck. Yeah, he is British. I know, it's quite unfortunate. Would not wish that on my worst enemy. But Icicle's really cool. Next up, referring to my little trusty list, we got another mono deck. And this one is going to be, if I can find it, here we are, Mono Strength. So Mono Strength is another thing that kind of falls into a similar vein as the Anima decks. It gets to do a few different things. So first off, 20 card deck for an aggro deck is actually pretty good. 20 cards for control is garbage. But for here, we really appreciate the consistency. Wait, why are you not playing Demon Pact? We're just going to pretend Demon Pact is in this list because there is no good reason to not play Demon Pact in this list. So, yeah, 20 cards. That means that you're already going to be pretty dang consistent. Why is Windsword not in this? Okay, it would appear that me and Warps have some substantial disagreements about what makes a good mono strength list. Anyways, you get to do like some early things. You get to like play out very well statted units basically all the time. You get your you just get your stupid combos way more consistent. Like you're only playing 20 cards, so you don't have to pad yourself out with 3-cost units. So Rumbo and the Mushka is happening. Like, yes. Like Cavalry and Geode, I guess is the curve here. Geode is actually an interesting disruption card. Because if you rip that off a Cavalry, that is a 5-cost 5/6 at base. Like that is not getting removed. And even like if they Mortal Blow, that's 5 for 5, and you already plussed off a Cavalry. Oh, that's interesting. But yeah, so like you get to run over things. You have good statted units, and you get to do that consistently. You also do get to consistently curve out Titanic on turn 10, like every game, which is probably pretty good for an aggro deck. Although I still think that like mono strength generally has some issues. And this is like going to be a reoccurring theme with all of the mono decks, is that they get to like do interesting things. The issue is that every deck is designed with a clear and obvious weakness, and everybody knows what these weaknesses are. So as soon as they see that you're playing a monolith, they immediately know how to beat your deck. And for that, Strength has got like no draw power. Okay, like look at the draw options that we have here. Elderfall, that is delayed draw, and it hits a 1-cost unit. Amalgam, your hand size you gotta freaking do gymnastics to get Amalgam to draw. Rumbo is finding things on occasion when it doesn't get dusted because Lightning Vial is everywhere. Cavalry is going to get you 1 unit, and that's just going to start out of decking. And that could be a Dracomantium, that could be a Boulder. And Gift of Swords is here for the draw that this deck obviously needs, but this is a 6-cost card to draw 3. I get that like it's a lot of cards. I understand that like buffs your board, but that's just too slow. You're going to get stomped on by faster aggro decks because they like Agi provides a lot of very efficient removal. This deck's removal package is not efficient, and Strength on its own does not really have the best removal. Like early game, you've got like Strike Down, Icy Touch. Advocate is like a late game option, and like you just don't have that many options. So as soon as somebody sees that you're playing Mono Strength, you're going to go, oh, hey, I can just drop Fox Familiar turn 1 for free, and like he's basically gotta pop off with Flashbang or Hellgeist, or he's gotta expend like he's very limited removal to deal with that. That's like a 1-cost unit. And that's just like one possible turn 1 play. What do you do when like they pop Gato turn 1 and they blow away your hand? Like that 1 card is going to be absolutely huge. What are you going to do against Unophobia whenever they're just vomiting cards out of their deck every turn? Because Agi decks get to run like Blitz, they get to run Pandora. They are able to just destroy their hand and then they get to reload it. This does not have that reload until turn 6, and even then it takes your entire turn, and you've got to have a board to actually get some value off of it. Now, I understand that like this is an aggro deck, and you're going to be hoping for like a board, because like if you don't have a board turn 6, you've probably already lost. But it's just too slow. You're missing key pieces to make an aggro deck work. You need, when you're playing mono decks, you have to be extremely consistent at doing something extremely busted. And I don't think that mono strength is able to pull that off. It's frankly like just too fair. Like it plays some big units, but like it doesn't do anything too wacky. Like even if we went full in on like just the shenanigans, like if we threw in Halcyon and like we threw in Windsword in here and then Demon Pact, and the whole game plan was just to make this absolute monster unit turn 3, you lose to like 1 piece of hard removal. If your whole game plan revolves around your opponent not running Shrink Ray or Mortal Blow or Blue Moon, that's not a good game plan. I'm sorry. Those tools are just too relevant. Moving on to our next list was a very cool combo that actually made an appearance in the tournament. Although, as we will discuss, and as was shown in the tournament, it has some issues. And that combo is the Iris Menglong Dragon combo. Iris really likes her combo decks, and this one is, in my opinion, one of the cooler ones. So essentially, the game plan here is Menglong comes with a attached spell that is like a Waking Dream, which lets it ready itself. Menglong also gets that cost reduction, so Menglong can come down cheap, and that's 6 damage to face. So basically, you do that, and then you do like that, and then it's like 12 damage, and then you have Boost Boots, and then that's like 24 damage. So throughout the game, you only have to do like 8 damage to your opponent if you just like smack them with all of the swords. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, Waneblade is 3-1. It used to be 4-1. That was just ridiculous. So, pros to this deck. Why do I think it's good tier? So first off, we're playing Wisdom, which means that we get like all of the stupid early game removal. We have access to Scorch, Incinerate. We could be running Eradicate. We've got Snaptrap and Burn to Crisp because Agi also has got really good early game removal. And even if you don't run that, just being in the Wiz Prism already threatens people who are playing control decks. Because it's like, okay, I've got to be careful, because I don't know how many dusting things my opponent has, and they could dust all of my units. That is a legitimate threat for a control deck, especially if you want to do like Grave Royal. On top of that, we're also taking advantage of some of the more cost-efficient Agi cards that they have. Fly Guy is just amazing. It cycles, it finds your Tragic Poet, it sets up your combos. It's going to find your Doomsday or your Waneblade. Hot Dog is just deck thinning its banner, it just goes face. It's a very fun card. And Orchid is just absolutely busted right now. Because if you're holding at least 3 spells, Orchid is 0 cost draw. And it makes whatever you drew always be a good card that is going to be even better because it now is 0 cost. Orchid enables so many things. It sets up like half of your combos because consider this. An entire mulligan of Guru that is 6 cost plus like 3 if you're going to go for Windweave, or like on turn 8 Guru Cirrus Mask and use the attached Windweave. An entire mulligan of Guru is equivalent to just playing Orchid. And Orchid also draws you a card. This card is insane. This card is so good. You've also got Head in Clouds, which is just getting the cost reducer things. Notably, your Speed Boots, your Windweave, your Guru. Like you can Head in the Clouds, and then Guru Windweave turns 7. Or you can Head in the Clouds, Guru, and then you will Cirrus Mask, and then use Guru's attached Windweave, turn 8 altogether. believe. Let's see, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, turn 7, you can pop off a Guru combo if you manage to just hit Guru with Head and Clouds. And it's drawing you cards. So, like, it's already deck thinning, which is what this deck needs to do. It finds your Editor Candy Mask. Like, the deck is very cohesive. It very much, like, works together. And it has good synergy. Now, issues. As with any combo deck, when you're playing a combo, you basically have to commit that so many of your draws out of a game are just going to be completely dead useless. So for this deck, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we have 4 dead draws. And until we hit our Guru, Windweave is going to be kind of dead. Candy Mask and Seer's Mask are also going to be kind of dead, unless you want to pop those off early. But, I mean, those draws, like, they kind of hurt. And yeah, sure, you're in Wiz. You get the Prism that, like, drawing cards is the thing that they do. They just get to draw all of their cards. Oh, I forgot to mention, freaking Briefus, like, searching out Guru. It's just consistent, good. Consistency, I place very highly. But first issue, yeah, you have a lot of dead draws in this deck. And you do a pretty good amount of damage, especially for a combo deck. And it's not like with Mountain Lion, where they can block it by, like, playing a Flame Phoenix. But they can also block this combo much, much easier. You may notice that in order to afford all of these dead draws for combo pieces, that, like, all of their removal is shifted very high up in the early game, you don't really have the deck space available to cover all of your options. So basically, unless you've, like, cost reduced Doomsday to 0 to where you can drop it before you pop off with Menglong, your deck loses to a guard unit. I'm sorry? You have to basically clear out guard units first. Now, aggro, that doesn't really matter too much against aggro, because, like, you're either going to win or lose by how much aggression aggro is able to put out. But against, like, a control deck, they're just going to stuff bodies on you the entire game. And then once you guys start hitting, like, turn 10, they're just going to drop guard unit after guard unit after guard unit. They're going to drop their Doomshrooms. They're going to drop their Polar Bears, Dracomantiums. They're going to drop their Timbers. They're going to drop Shellys, because Shelly is stupid good. And you've got to now suddenly think, okay, so I have to remove these guard units, but also I need to be, like, drawing and mulliganing to get my combo going. But that, like, it's too easy to beat around for the thing that combo is supposed to be good against. Combo is supposed to be able to beat out dirtily slow control decks that try to play too greedy of a game. But this type of combo deck is too easy for any good control deck to just wallop. So that's why I'm placing it as I am. So let's see, that's another 3 decks. We'll just do, like, a check the chat and chat with chat about every 3 decks or so. Wow, is my water really that loud? We'll just mute that real quick, because I am chugging water today. Okay, let's check in with chat. Going back to the mono strength, if you don't want too much draw, yeah, that is true. Perhaps it would be better to say that, like, you want value cards. Like, Fox, in my opinion, is very good at eking value out of plays that he was already making. Like, Run Wild into Hannah is popping your Vile Vow. Like, Run Wild into Trailblazer is drawing you cards and also cost reducing, and is also a banner, and is also doing face damage, and is also healing. Like, I consider Fox to be a good benchmark, because, just a spoiler alert, he's somewhere in A tier. So I'm kind of evaluating aggro decks in relation to what I consider to be the triad of Fox decks. Oh, F tier is a mono heart, which the nobody plays, so it's kind of difficult to get a good deck list for. I basically said it was F tier because it's a control deck that takes 10 damage at the start of the game. It can't go deep, and it loses to, like, any amount of dusting whatsoever. Its units have no stats. It can't really fight on board. it kind of just has to AoE through everything, but if they play like one big unit, it's kind of screwed, because like Heart has no hard removal. So like it has very easy exploitable weaknesses, which if your deck is very easy to like bully, then I'm going to drop it very low. I said kind of the same thing with Andromeda, just because like it's just a non-functional combo deck. Like, I honestly don't think Andromeda really belongs in a combo deck, or deserves to be like its own combo deck. I think it's more interesting as like a mid-range card. But that. So yeah, Mono Strength kind of is lacking on its ability to generate value in its plays. Like, if we think back to it, it didn't really, like, you've got to trade your units into their units and trade positively to generate value that way. But if you're doing that, then you're not going face with your units. And so it's kind of just lacking that ability to generate value on its own. Yeah, Orchid is auto-include. I may be overhyping Orchid. I mean, yeah, but like there's literally, in the history of Wisdom, there has never been a Wiz deck that did not play Orchid. I'm sorry. Oh, hey, we've got Gina Reno in the chat. That's cool. Gina Reno, I thought about hitting you up for your deck list, actually. But then I realized that yours and Hanoo's were like really similar, and I didn't want to bug you. Yeah, Ron plays Mono Heart and does it well. Yeah, Ron is also an amazing player. Also, I cannot think of a single time that I have lost to Ron with him playing Mono Heart. Like, if you're like, I'm obviously, I play the control matchup. So, like, I'm playing Horic, I'm running my single target removal, and I have AoE, and I have draw power. If you're playing Mono Heart, I'm just going to dust your stuff. That's just how it's going to be. And congratulations, your Royal is a 10-cost kill it unit. That is just not going to work. Yeah. So, that little check in the chat. Hey, Skrill. Yeah, most decks have counters. Yes, but the top tier decks are abusive. They will bully you. A fair deck with a counter is not going to be S tier. Euphra, I'm not rating your 2 hurting Ancient Stories. Moving on, because of that god-awful thought, next deck in B tier is Mono Wiz. Okay, now maybe it should be a bit higher, but I'm placing it here mostly because of my opinion on consistency. Mono Wiz can do some absolutely nutty things when you're doing this. So you're not really a true control deck, because like you're just trying to play all of these guys stupid fast. You're doing E for well. You've got like your Gift of Ea to find it. You're going to be consistently hitting your ramp cards if you so choose to run them. You've got Call to Mind. You can do all of this very consistently. So basically, the game plan is: do I win from playing a Eldest and a Sky Phoenix, or like an Eldest and a Libra turn 8? If the answer is yes, if they do not have the hard removal to do with that, this deck just wins games. But also, 20-card deck problem. So this list can't really afford to run much dusting, and having to commit this many cards on your top end means that your openings you can very easily brick. And, well, I don't like a deck that can just kinda automatically lose 20% of the games, even if it can like automatically win 20% of the games. Because I'm thinking, okay, are you playing this in a tournament? Hanoo is insane, and he did so. But it all comes down to how consistently you can Aetherwell out a massive board, and how often you can win off of that massive board. Because if they can clear your big board, like if you rip Sky Phoenix and Menglong, and they're like, okay, Fell Stench, chill, I'll pass my turn, Feral Moon, and like, huh, well, my deck now has got like 4 units left in it. I'm playing against a deck with 30 cards, and it has like infinity more removal than me. That's a control matchup. Against aggro decks, this is a Wiz deck, so like it's just going to bully aggro players. But I still feel like you've got to hit a massive Ether Whale like every time. And the fact that like you need to run Scroll Weaver to like reset things, the fact that you need Bard Rock to get that cost reduction, that's going to harm you. Now, in fairness, doing things like Rosewater Charm and Gift of Ea mean that you can hit your Aether Well much sooner. And if you like rip Amaruath or Eldis early in an aggro game, they're just done for. They're just done for. But I don't think that that's a viable long-term strategy, because as soon as they know what you're doing, they're like, okay, I've got to hold my removal. I am not taking Backstab in the opening hand. And, okay, I see the chat, like, Anti-Benz was playing Arcadium Mask with cards that no longer exist in the game right now. So, Anti-Benz is not a valid argument for the strength of Mono Wiz. If Arcadium Mask Biome, where you just got to rip spells for free out of thin air, and you got to play a deck that had no win con, other than just eventually drawing a win con because you played like 50 cards in a turn, Yu-Gi-Oh style, yeah, then Mono Wiz would be like top tier. But it can't do that right now. And thankfully, we don't really want it to. So, yeah, I mean, like, this deck can be very good. Like, just because I'm placing something in mid tier does not mean that it cannot very easily win a game against like a high tier deck. The thing is that I'm rating all of these on like average with a slant towards its matchups against top tier and upper high tier decks. And these decks up here, they have the removal package to deal with that. They have the ability to like either rush you down to where your Aether Whale play may not even matter, or they're just going to destroy your units as soon as they come out, and then it does not matter. Your only hope is to get out your Aether Whale stupid fast, which cannot be done consistently enough to make that any higher than mid tier. Next up, we have got what I have titled in my notes as CD Jank. Hang on, I'm missing a deck. Oh, whoops. See if I can find it. Yeah, here we are, Puppet Master. So Puppet Master CD is a deck that kind of tries to do Aether Whale things, but like with Int, and so like it gets interesting results. Because like whenever you go into Int, you have access to, or not, I'm sorry, not Int, but like Heart. Whenever you do that, you get access to a lot more recursion tools, because now you can play like Necrotic Pact, you can play Glacial Tomb, you have Evermore. And you also get access to Hydrex, which is just a stupid target to do things with. And honestly, if you like Puppet Master into Hydrex like turn 3, that's game. If they don't like dust it, that's just game. Oh, but wait, Puppet Master is just stupid good and it gives the unit lead. Because of course, why not? If you Puppet Master out like a Cryogen and they don't have like the answer to that, then like, yeah, just win. It's like an interesting deck, because like it very much relies around Puppet Master. Came over with hiccups. And you can like fish for it. You've got like a lot of ways to find it fast. You've got Dual Boot, which can like rip out these guys faster. But again, it's kind of the issue that like I said with Mono Heart, is that like threat density is something that I think is very relevant. And if they like just dust your Hydrex, like if you play Puppet Master and it's like, okay, well it's 2 cost, so Identity Crisis and then Raise Arms, like your whole strategy falls apart from any amount of disruption. Secondly, you basically have to hit Puppet Master like every game. That's just not consistent. You've got like Think Twice, you've got Illusion, you've got all these cool ways that you can like copy things, and you can get this to happen pretty often. Because Heart and Int have got some great cycling, they've got a great ability to move through things. But I just don't think that the deck is consistent enough. I don't think it really holds itself together. There is a variant of this deck that can just like absolutely rend through things, and it is much higher tier. But until we get there, I'm just going to have to let it sit. Another 5 hours. I could not talk that long. My sword is actually feeling sore. Yeah, like you got yeah, you've got like a lot of these ways to find it out. But also, whenever you puppet master something, if we assume it's not Hydrex, how do you like get that thing back? Because Puppet Master takes it out of your deck. So like you can't Soul Forge that. You've got to recur with these tools, but now as soon as it's entered your discard pile, who's to say it's not getting dusted? Because like all the good control decks, they've got like a million ways to dust your things. Who's to say that like even if like you get out your Puppet Master, like they just dust that. And also, you play like no units, so that means that as soon as your guys drop, they're going to get hit with removal. Because like they will have the removal for at least the first couple times. Yeah, if you can play a Shell Officer like 12 times in a game, of course you're going to win. I'm just saying that like I don't think that happens consistently enough to put this up into A tier. Yeah, I don't know why Timber is in this. I did not. I asked people who actually played the decks for their decks. That's where I got all of these lists from. So I am not changing anybody else's list. I did rename them to what I thought were better names because you guys suck at naming decks. Y'all, my MacBook started at 100% and is now at 17%. Do not buy a MacBook. Just do not buy a MacBook. Catching up, lists have been covered. We've got Mono Heart, Andromeda, Flux Control, CD Puppet Master, Mono Wiz, Dragon Combo, Mono Strength, and Mira. And these are ordered. I will say, just because I put a list in like mid-tier doesn't mean that I think it's like, oh, it's awful, you'll never play it. No, like these lists could still like, you could like run a 60% win rate with these lists if you know what you're doing. I'm just saying like 2 people of equal skill level, or like how far are you going to go in a tournament with this list? I don't think it's that great. Now, in fairness to what I just said, GoodDog was able to take a Puppet Master list all the way to finals in Sky Champions 4, and then he lost to a aggro list with a 12 damage combo. Very narrowly, I might say, but if you're playing these combo decks, you can't really afford to lose to like fast aggro. You've got to have answers to fast aggro. But I do think that there is a list that does that. So, rounding off our mid-tier, we've got one more list, and that is Titus Control. Strength and Wisdom is a unholy marriage and should never be condoned. Kind of like you have like, I don't know how to make this joke appropriately on stream without like a bug moving me. Yeah, this is a unholy marriage. Okay, so you play Strength, which Strength is like a cool prism. Because, like, you get big boys, and you get big things, and you get Dracomantium, and Tiamat, Titanic, and Cause Wrath. You're like, oh, I have all of the stats. And you play Wisdom, and it's like, so that early game, what if we just skip that part? And you put those two things together, and it becomes this abomination where it's like, let me just pull up the curve. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. More than half the deck is over 4 cost. I don't care if you're playing aggro or control. That is disgusting. You do not do that. That is so gross. Notably, this list does not run Ether Whale, although because Gift of Aya is wacky, you can wait, you don't play Gift of... Oh my gosh, I do not understand. Like, play Ether Whale, and then like you get these things for free. You get these guys for free with Ether Whale. Yeah, this deck actually chooses to like play early units. Man, that's probably why. See, you're not trying to cheat enough. You're trying to be too generous. You're trying to actually play like normal units. No, you only play the big units, and then you just Ether Whale everything onto the board, and you just vomit your deck. So yeah, you get like these early games. Honestly, it's probably better to have like this early board presence. You get to do wisdom stuff. You get to like do stuff. Look, another wisdom deck with Orchid. Can you believe it? It's almost as if Orchid is in literally every wisdom deck. You get to do all of that stuff. I will say, this deck does much better, in my opinion, than like Mono Wiz, because this deck has a much higher threat density. Like, you just get to do a lot more things. Oh, you know what else? No Ether Whale means that you never rip Sky Phoenix too soon, which means that you'll always get at least one Sky Phoenix off of your Prismata, assuming you do that. Because, yeah, Prismata is like, it gets you an element of every other. So actually, yeah, this deck can run up to like 3 Sky Phoenix reses that usually can win a game. Got Lifesteal on that. Cause Wrath for dusting. Another amazing thing is like all the stupid dusting you get. Twist and Turn is just here just to be obnoxious and remind me of how much I dislike it. Because like, okay, you turn 6, you Sphinx Mask, and then you Twist and Turn, and oops, Libra or Sky Phoenix, or you play Brimstone. Oh, you didn't kill it? Okay, well, Tiamat. It's silly things, just silly things. I mean, it's good. It's a good list. You get to like play a lot of early game removal. World Tree is obnoxious whenever it comes down at full strength because it's just huge, and you get to do some of the wacky wisdom healing like this. Issues, I think, are first off consistency, which I'm going to be screaming this entire time. This bricks. This whole mess. It just bricks. Like, I think we actually saw that in a game where like you just bricked out your entire hand and you were just screwed. Now, when you don't brick, the list is very good, but the list is only good leaving itself open to brick so consistently. And you really like need that. You need to be able to do things consistently for me to call your deck good. Because like I'm thinking, okay, is this a deck I want to take to tournament? Like Hork is a good deck when I don't absolutely screw up my deck building and completely panic after losing a game and then just completely ruin myself. But like Hork can consistently do his game plan. He can consistently draw, remove, heal, grave roll. He can do that every game. This deck, like, what happens when you get like Prismata, Sky Phoenix, and then you get like Waterline Giza? Like, now you're in a very dire position because if you're playing aggro and they just start going ham on you, you play Giza, you remove something, you play Waterline, you remove something, and we'll say that like you get a good draw and a bad draw, so you get like a Brimstone and then you get like a Reinforce. Yeah, you're in rough shape there. Good deck when it goes off, too inconsistent to do it reliably. Oh dear, we are going to be here a while. Man, this video is going to take as long as your average whiz match. Funny how that happens. Time to swap water bottles. That is another 3 list, so we will check in with the chat. Did I rate Bulligan? I do not believe so. Yeah, I will say that I would definitely rate your control list higher. Did I ever? Euphra, I don't think I actually got your Axel list. Did I? Oh dear, I did not. Huh. Well, I guess we'll have to leave it off. Honestly, I was going to place it at the very bottom of top tier, Axel Control, just because like nobody plays it. But I am dead set. It is the stupidest deck because like you Giza, you Grave Roll, and you basically have to play like Grave Roll is your only top end card, and the rest of your deck can be entirely draw, draw and stall. That's it. That's the whole deck. Luckily, we don't have anybody in the community who plays that lane, and I guess it would be kind of unfair to rate a deck nobody plays. Looking at you, Monoheart. But, unfortunate. So, yeah, next deck. Moving into upper mid-tier, low, high tier. Going to be placing Iris Rainbow. Now, this list is, like, super cool. This is probably one of my favorite lists. It's the only wisdom deck I will respect in the foreseeable future. And it's because, like, you got a really cool, like, deck strategy. You do very aggressive, smorky things. But then, like, you also have, like, all these cool mid-range threats. You play dragons. Ooh, dragons. I like dragons. You get, like, Mengelong, which is just silly how good it is. This card used to be, like, 9 costs, and it counted itself. And then they made it 8 cost and counted everything. And now it's, like, basically starting at 7 cost. Mengelong is good. If you're playing Wiz, Mengelong should probably be there. I won't say every deck. But, oh my, would you look at that? Another wisdom list with Orchid. Jeez, it's almost as if it's in every deck. So anyways, yeah, this is a list where, like, you play a lot of aggressive stuff. You've got some really cool reload tools in Turn the Tide. Basically, your game plan is if you're matching up against another aggro deck, you're going to use your abusive wisdom removal to basically just, like, run them out of resources. And against other aggro decks, this can actually happen pretty dang consistently. Against, like, Fox decks, you can outvalue a Fox player pretty easily, especially when you, like, have Burn to Crisp, Card Sling, we've got Deep Cut, Salvage, just good. I'd probably be playing Key in there just because Salvage Key is Infinity Banner. And then also, if you drop, like, a Comet early, if you drop a Mengelong early, you've got stats. You've got mad stats on board. Against Control, you're basically trying to just exhaust their resources, which honestly can work sometimes. And you got these really nice disruption tools in Turn the Tide, Hydrate, which together can just be, like, a massive amount of value. If you run into a lot of Control players, you might even put, like, Maelstrom in here just to reset their deck, set them behind, like, 5 turns. And from there, like, you just go in face. Of course, your late game plan is just play Sky Phoenix. Wait. Why does Sky Phoenix... Why do the names, like, have no spaces? I guess, like, everything else is on top of each other, but, like, why is there no space? Anyway, I just now noticed that. Distractions. See, this is why I play Control, because if I played Aggro all the time, like I proclaimed the love, I would be too easily distracted by my opponent's, like, shiny things, and I'd forget to be going face. So yeah, you just, like, try to either outvalue or outremove them, or just put a million pressure on their face. You have a lot of tokens, so then you just get Sky Phoenix. Let's look. See, another thing I like, this, like, really mixes the prisms, like, very evenly. And you're getting a lot of reses off of Phoenix every game. Because, like, you've got a lot of tokens here. You've got a lot of card generation. Oh boy, this is spicy. So, issues. Against Control, you can kinda just, like, lose to too many AoE spells. Like, if you don't, like, get off your Antugas, if they, like, maybe dust your Gizas somehow, or, like, you don't have Blitz in here because, like, you're running Turn the Tide. So it's, like, 5 and, like, kind of has that restriction on it. If you get smacked with, like, AoE after AoE, they can, like, just run you out of cards. And you've got a lot of draw power in this deck. You've got a lot of draw things. But every turn you spend drawing as an aggro deck is another turn that Control just gets to develop board, or just gets to, like, draw their own things, and then they have more removal, so you're back at stalemate or whatever. Secondly, is that against Control, Sky Phoenix, as cool as it is too easy to disrupt. Control decks, especially the Wisdom ones, they have dusting. They have all the dusting. It's like your whole thing that you spent this entire deck around, that you're playing such a cool strategy for, just, like, loses. Like, it doesn't work, like, maybe 30-40% of the games. And you don't need Sky Phoenix every game. But the games you need Sky Phoenix are the Control decks, and the Control decks are the ones that are going to dust your Sky Phoenix. It's a sad reality, because this card is so cool. It's such a cool card. Especially whenever, like, you consider, like, it comes back with its removal and its healing, and, like, it just saves you games. It's so cool. The art is great. Love Sky Phoenix. I wish it wasn't Agi, because then I could play it in my Fox decks, and I would have another way to play Fox, because 5 Fox decks is not enough. But altogether, like, it's a very solid game plan. It may even be smarter to put it in, like, lower high tier. I only put it down here because I think there's a Iris deck that is, like, easily here, here, or here. Like, So I only rate it lower for like suboptimality, and also the fact that it does very well in aggro matchups. But like basically everything can do well against aggro in the current meta, and in the control games where like it really needs that, it just doesn't. It doesn't get off its answers to control decks. It doesn't get them consistently enough. Checking chat. Oh yeah, ladder is always more into aggro because people like faster games. I'm evaluating in a tournament sense. Yeah, we are up to 10 viewers. My CPU is at 64%. Help! Help! Help. Yeah, most of the time you guys are going to be like, oh, but this player plays it, and they play it very well. I'm like, yes, they're a good player, and they're playing what they like. Let's see. Next up, last thing in our upper mid tier, I'm putting Mono Agi. Mono Agi, I think, is substantially better than Mono Strength. Because Mono Strength has like really doubled down on just getting their nutty, wacky combos. Whereas Mono Agi kind of just does Agi things, but faster. And it just goes fast. Goes zoom. Goes zoom. So yeah, very very low curve. You might notice the whole deck is agility. And because you're playing a 20 card deck, you get to like run wild hot doge very consistently. You get to do like your turn 1 Fox Familiar plays very consistently. Your turn 1 Speedster Fire Runes. I don't know if people still do that. You get to do things consistently. And for an aggro deck, consistency is key. You have draw options in like Blitz and Pandora, which Zygote has opted not to run. I suspect that he probably is just good enough at managing his value with things like Trailblazer, Hot Doge, Questing, and Huntaro that he doesn't really make use of it. But if you want those options are there. And having options is very good. You also have a lot of potential good things just in terms of your early game. Like, yeah, Backstab, you got Fly Guy, Cookbook can find things. Hannah is helpful. Parajax is just value removal, as Alpha showed me. Lightning Vial is just good. Right Knight can be silly. Champ is good. It's another fire card. And you've got a bit of disruption in the back. Overall, I don't think there's really too much to say about like Mono Agi. It's just like fast. I mean, like you again, it is fast and it can be threatening. This is probably the first deck that I would say is capable of competing against top tier decks just based off of its sheer consistency and the sheer things that it does. Like a top tier deck can brick, and if it does, a Mono Agi deck can win. But like the game plan is too linear. You're going to get stalled out. The threat density is not really there after the early game, so you have to win on your opening plays. And if your opening play is like Fox Familiar, and it's like, okay, Bad Dreams, and it's like, Cube Junior, okay, Funeral Moon, or Identity Crisis, because like, I'm just looking at this from Hork perspective. Like, I'm just using Hork removal examples because those are like the first ones that come to my mind. Oh, yeah, I'm seeing somebody mention how Pair of Jacks is really nice with Orchid. Wow, really? You mean like there's never a bad time to have Orchid? That's insane. But yeah, so like you can win off of your early games. But if you just get like smothered in removal, or if they just block out your bodies on board, because Agi units generally don't have the best stats, they have decent stats. Yeah, they can have some pretty good stats. Like Flank Rider has good stats. Zumi has good stats. Slay is pretty good stats, but like it's also 5 cost. Flat is dies to banner. But like there are counterplays here, and there are ways that make this deck like kind of crumble under too much pressure. Other than that, they're like, it's a good deck. Let's see, that's Rainbow. Very good Agi. Moving on, we are now into what I consider lower high tier. And yes, I think this many decks are good in the game. I think there are a ton of very good decks in the game right now. So starting off, we are going to start with something that most of you probably have not encountered, and it's going to be Unophobia mid-range. A list that like Alpha's kind of been working on. and I really just think that like it's just suboptimal. It does good things because like it's based off of a very very good deck. Basically, you're just playing like an early aggressive package, and you've got like Unophobia, which is just free damage. Unophobia, so much damage, and this list doesn't really take too much advantage of it, but it's basically all of that stuff, and also like Mountain Lion for like a combo. And what really made this deck relevant to me was the fact that like it incorporates a lot of very annoying early game answers, and it can also just do some very fast stuff. Like, there's really not too much for me to say about it because like I do not have the experience against it. I've just played against it, say maybe 20, 30 times or so. Or like swapping around between like Fox and Horic. I mean, it's interesting. Armored Guard being given lead was a huge improvement to it because now that that death value is guaranteed, it just makes things like better. Mountain Lion is another card that like I really feel like we need to relook or look again at Mountain Lion because like there's got to be some way to make this like a top end and then just like punch through everything because like 3 attack or 3 health, that's a breakpoint in this game. Mountain Lion just gives that to you, just gives that to your hero, and then like every banner after that is just sauce. It's just nothing but sauce. Like you get Mountain Lion Cube Jr. That's just that's health. You a healthy boy. You managed to drop Flock as like removal, and then if you follow that up with Mountain Lion, that is game. Honestly, I would probably play this deck more aggressively as just dropping Flock, like turn 6 every game, just to force out the AoE removal to deal with it, just because they're terrified of the turn 7 Mountain Lion punching their face in for how much damage? Damage is all that 9 damage. Yeah, just punching them for 9. Yeah, that might be a bit greedy. That may be suboptimal. I don't know. I guess you can also like Soul Forge Flock for 10, which is kind of silly in an aggro list. Overall, maybe Razor to place it like to like flip these two, but I think that that list is kind of unrefined, and I think that Mai just generally has some like really good tools because like agility just does things fast. It's very tempo efficient, and Int lets you cheat a lot of things, and also has very good single target removal. And remember, kids, there's no difference between 1 AoE removal and 6 single target removals if you draw enough cards. Yeah, check back in with the chat. My computer has chilled down to 57. We're spicing over here. Oh god, I've been babbling for an hour 14. Wait, no? Yeah, an hour 14. Just about a card game. Moving on, is a Gina Reno still in the chat? It's a HanooStreet still in the chat because it is time for me to break out the Zoe deck. You ought to be happy I gave you the GoodDog image. So Heart and Agi. It's a very wacky combo because Heart is very fast, or Agi is very fast. They have great early game removal. And Heart is like, so I draw all of the cards. You put those 2 things together, and it's like you kill and you draw, and then you start spending mana. Like you just do things so fast for free. You get your fire combos very efficiently with this because you want Burning Blade, you want Firecrafter, and those things are just removal. That's draw. That's just good. You just get to do things. You get to play things like Vanessa, Jar Souls, You get a lot of value out of your units. And a lot of very cheap things too. Let's look at the curve. Again, look at that. Look at that beautiful balance. You get to do things very well. Death's King is a really cool answer here because like turn 2 Death's King and then like Fun Guy is just a good game. You're just done after that. Personally, I would also be running Sworn Oni in here, but I'm just a greedy son of a bitch. Yeah, I honestly I don't know why Mawworm is here. Do not know why you played this card in a Heartless. But I did not mess with anybody's deck list that they sent in. So if it works for Hanu, it works for me. You also have like a lot of lifesteal available to you through like Vanessa and Cleo, which means that they have to answer your things. But them answering your things is going to be draining because you're drawing a lot of cards while you're doing this. You're also establishing your board presence very fast, and you've got Flame Phoenix turn 9 with like your Fireball as a threat, so like that's a thing. That will always be a thing to scare people. Only issues like Hot Dog, Fireball. Not the best combo. I will tell you what is a good combo though, Second Chance and then Hot Dog, or it's not in this list, but Second Chance Bolt is also just hilarious. Because you're like spending 5 for like another bolt and it gets the shield. And like if that bolt goes face, that's just damage. If a card is just damage, I like it. I don't care if it's good. If it's just damage, I like it. It's just how I be. It's just how I be. Leave me to be. Yeah. This right here, if we go back to our tier list, this is where I start saying these decks are bad because this deck is good. Dragon Combo is bad because Hanu Zoe, if you do not hit like all of your dusting things, this guy will just like draw through your removal and it will continue to pound your face in. This guy right here will trade its units with yours and it will just continue to pound your face in. This guy will just pound your face in. Now, these control decks down here can honestly still compete with these guys up here because control is fundamentally just better in this game than in most other games. But this can still like pretty easily just run these guys over because of consistency. This right here is a consistent deck, and if you don't respect it, this is the point where refusing to respect a deck is going to get you killed. So let me click off of this. I'm good stream, much better for me, because it would appear that I am not suffering stream quality issues. My computer may be on fire like Pompeii, but that's not of concern right now. Moving on up into A tier, the first of our beautiful, legitimate, hate that deck, Fox decks is going to be what I'm calling Smelt Fox, which is Fox where you are using fire and metal cards. Now, Strength and Agi together is a really cool combo, because those two things, like, they have a lot of elemental synergies in those two prisms, so when you put them together, you can get access to a lot of different game plans. So Smelt Fox is kind of like a mid-rangey, disruption-y style Fox deck, where you're basically using Crystal Cache to fill out your draw engine. You don't play Pandora, in my opinion, and I've done a lot of testing with Fox decks. You don't play Pandora, instead you play Crystal Cache and Treasure Chest, and because of Cache's cost reduction, late in the game, you can drop Cache as basically zero cost draw and deck sending. And even early game, if you've like already drawn Righteous or Treasure Chest, like turn 2, you can Cache up and then like Snap Trap Hannah and then just remove their board. And then you've also cleaned out your deck. You've like removed things, which is deck sending is helpful for aggro because it means that you more consistently have your answers. Deck sending in aggro means that like more consistently in the late game, you have Retort to blast through a Vashiva. You have a Plane Ranger against the Sam deck when you deck them. On top of that, you're kind of doing standard Fox things. You play all of the shield units, and then like you drop Demon Pact, because Demon Pact is this game's version of Cyber Dragon from Yu-Gi-Oh! Where it's just like this big, fast wall of stats. It's like ridiculously priced. And this deck puts out a lot of pressure. Because, like, even if you go turn 2, like, you can drop Fly Guy Flashbang, and it's like, so if you play a unit, I have Grim Reprisal, but there is a 50% chance I'm going to find Demon Pact, and then Mana Pot up into Demon Pact, which is a 6/6 with Guard, Banner, and Fate on my turn 3, and I took a card out of my deck, and I have, like, this Fate unit on board, so even when you kill it, I'm still getting value. Or I could just get Grim Reprisal. So now, what removal pieces are you going to spend to remove my Flashbang? These sticky shield units are what make Fox threatening. Having Halcyon as a turn 2 play is like, okay, so I've got like 4 health on board. You need like a Whisk Away, an Incinerate, or like an Eradicate to cleanly remove Halcyon. Or I guess Identity Crisis. And if you don't do that, what's to stop me from playing Demon Pact next turn? Fox is not so good as his ability of the cards that he's actually playing, but it's his ability to threaten you with the things that he could do, because there are so many different ways that you can be doing Fox. Like, as I see, or as I show you guys later, the raw number of Fox decks available mean that, like, he can very easily, he's one of the actual players, or heroes, where I think deceiving your opponent is actually, like, a viable strategy. Like, because you can be running Smelt Fox, you can be running Anima Fox, you can be running Heat Wave, you can be running like just raw fire, and then it's like, okay, so he could be like doing this, and then like he's going to cache into things, or like he's going to drop Righteous on me and dust all of my units, or he could be playing Anima. Oh, okay, so turn 1, like, yeah, waited, or turn 1 he played a Flashbang. Okay, he could be playing Demon Pact, so like I have to kill that, even if it's not in my hand. You're consuming their valuable resources. Like, even if you're not holding like Jack Squat, just playing a card as Fox is threatening your opponent. That is pressure. That is real, legitimate threat. On top of that, it's like, okay, so turn 2 Head in the Clouds. Okay, great. So am I playing against like a weird Fox control deck? Am I playing against like Heat Wave? Is this like just like a deck that just happens to play Head in the Clouds? Am I playing against Anima? Are they going to be dropping like next turn 3 Grunk Windsword? Now it's a 7/5 with Shroud and Guard. Like, that versatility and those threats fundamentally to me pushes Fox decks beyond where they actually should be landing on the tier list. Because the ability to like mix up on your opponent, for them to not exactly know what you're doing in a game as deep and complex as Skyweaver, means that like you can really, really screw with people. Now, in a tournament setting, you kind of lose some of that, but it depends on like what the rules are. Because like, honest to God, a sideboard of 5 cards. Well, let me check. Yeah, a sideboard that includes 6 cards could entirely change this deck into an Anima deck, and you would have no clue. A sideboard of 6 cards could like cut Cage, Chess, Righteous, Snap Trap, and then like that, and then you throw in like Pandora, you throw in Sworn Oni, and then it's like, okay, so turn 1 they did nothing. Turn 2, oh god, a Sworn Oni, I don't have removal for that. I'm going to put this out here now. Sworn Oni has been slept on. That card as a turn 2 play is a fat deck check to anybody who was not playing a hard removal or Lightning Vial, because if you think that like Halcyon is hard to remove on turn 2, Sworn Oni is like really hard to remove turn 2. Like, you don't even have Whisk Away, you don't have Eradicate. Even if like you hit it with Grim Reprisal, it has that armor, so it still has that 1 point of attack. So it is still going to quest. And this deck doesn't have the space to run Sworn Oni, which is why I started with it. But, oh boy, Fox is versatile. He really is a tricky Fox. So let's go on over here. Oh, believe me, Shapungo, you will see more Sworn Oni. You will see much more Sworn Oni. How are y'all liking the tier list so far? What do y'all think of it? Yeah, let's also check this. Overlord Gaming, thank you for the follow. Skrill, thank you for also following. Yeah, 4 HP is a breakpoint. If something has 3 health, it is possible to remove it without consuming too much. If something has 4 health, that is hard. That is hard to remove. Just catching up from the bottom really fast. F tier is Mono Heart because it's a control deck that does like none of the good control deck things. Next we have Andromeda because like it's just bad. Fox Control is a control deck that has 0 healing and is also really dirtily and has like no draw. And then we get into decks that you might actually play. Yeah, my objective is to be the ESAM of this game, where like it's Bakin opinions, and it's like I'll say something that's like purposely incendiary, just so that way like it gets more attention and more people listen to me, just because like they keep hearing it repeated and debated. Yeah, here, I need to go get myself another water bottle. We had a cold front come through, like I mentioned at the start of the stream. It started snowing. Anytime climate changes like that, it just like wrecks my body. Like it comes through the window, like it just like grabs my throat, and like it just starts like choking me in my sleep. It's like ah. And it's like, what are you doing? And it's like, I'm splitting your lip. That's what. And it's like, bitch. Sky influencer. No, that sounds kind of cringe. I'll be right back. Oh, maybe let's not swap to that one. And I'm back. A tier list with many tiers that could be called top. No, there is only one top tier. The difference is that I have a lot of high tiers. Because I think there are a lot of decks that are very good. So I like need to differentiate between like levels of good. Huh. Yeah, the difference is that like you've got to be at least like upper mid tier to maybe compete like with uh like upper high tier. Like if something is 3 tiers out of you, you don't have a chance. But like trying to like keep this all together. Okay, so first off was Smelt Fox. Next up is Fox Anima. Now, Fox Anima, in my opinion, is not exactly the most consistent deck, which kind of goes against my general line of thinking. The difference is that it's just consistently auto winning enough to where that like it could actually like run through a tournament on just like auto win hands. Because like Mamba is stupid. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. Mamba is so stupid. If you like Heading Clouds and you hit your Windsword with it, that is turn 5, a 7/5. That is a turn 5 9/6 shrouded stealth unit on turn 5. You also got like Mushka. You got Grunk, Heading Clouds, Finding Your Hamtaro, which always hits your Grunk. wacky combo. You guys ever notice how like Grunk is like in all of these decks, but on surface like it just doesn't look that good? Like it's 3/2, it dies to banner. It's just the only time Grunk is good is whenever you're able to just cheat its enchantment, and whenever it is, it's in like every deck that can do that. It's like you've got all these like consistency things. You've got like a pretty impressive top end. Hurricane, I feel like I underrate every time. Even whenever like it wrecks my board, I still underrate it. Because I'm like, you had to have a unit. But like for this deck, it's really nice being able to just shroud all over things. Rumbo is just wacky in terms of like Mushka Rumbo, and then Mushka Dust Rumbo, and then like it's just you just vomit Anna all over the place. It's just gross. Garuda is another slept on card because 5 armored health is good. I don't care how much it costs. 5 armored health is just good. Gusto is an amazing stun card. This deck actually does get to run a pretty cool amount of stun. So you get Unstoppable Chop. Demon Pact will be full for other things. Huntaro is good. Not exactly sure what Demon Pact is doing here, just because this doesn't have too many units. And that, in my opinion, is the biggest issue with this deck. To be a threatening deck, you have to have threats. Your threats in this deck are Grunk, Mushka, Mamba, Garuda, Plane Ranger, and Gusto. That is a lot of threats. Issue. You have no other units. Like, you got Cookbook, you got Daro, but like, your deck is entirely threats. A lot of these cards are kind of slow, actually. So like, oh, I see, Cookbook is here for the rodent problem. That's cute. So like, if your things get removed, or if like you just run into a hand that's like entirely spells, or like if you rip off like Mamba Earth Rune fast, where you just play Mamba and they're like, okay, street backstab. You're holding no units. You are holding no units, and if you're going up against another aggro deck, all they gotta do is be able to remove your first threat, and then they can just steamroll you from there. I honestly feel like this is probably more of a control breaker deck because of your ability to just shroud all over everything. The ability to just like pop shroud with Windsword, and then like your Huntaro. And once you do that, like you can run into them. Plane Ranger is always free damage. I don't think that there is really too many things at all that cleanly answer Plane Ranger. Like Funeral Moon, which is just a great card at any Crisis Eradicate answer. But outside of that, like you're not doing 5 damage on a single spell outside of like Chomp. Which this deck also runs. But like Plane Ranger is just free damage. It's removal. Rumbo is consistency. Gusto is that. Yeah, Alpha ran into the I'd say maybe 20% of games, and I don't literally mean 20%. I just mean like that small like noticeable chance of like just a god awful hand. Because honestly, like this deck has a lot of cards that are dead draws. Maybe has some room for some more fine tuning and making the game plan much more robust and durable. But you can just steamroll so hard whenever you get off your combos, especially against these lower decks. Maybe not so much against these decks that are above it, but it's like a gatekeeper deck. Like this, Smelt Fox, and like Hanu's Zoe list. Like these are gatekeepers. These things can like just stuff everything beneath it, and it's like you're done for. You're not going to get very far if you can't like handle these decks. So place that there. I need to speed this up, don't I? No! There is no amount of time that can contain my opinions. Moving on. Now you guys see why I like diversified this so much? Because like I have a lot of things to rate. And like I very much like do try to place everything. So now moving on to upper high tier. We've got oh wait, no I forgot. Wait, no I didn't. No I didn't. Yeah, moving on to upper high tier. Oh wait, there was another Anna Fox list I looked at. It's like basically the same thing. Wait, yeah, I forgot to round out my A tier. We also have Firefox. Generally, whenever y'all play me playing Fox, this is what I'm playing. I have been playing a lot of Smelt, but like I generally think like there's no reason to even bother with that when you can just like do all of this wacky early game pressure. I really like Fox's elemental synergies, but also you can do some really abusive stuff with like strength buffs. Fire Sword onto a Halcyon is disgusting. Fire Sword with an axolotl is committing war crimes and violating the Geneva Convention every time it happens. And with Sworn Oni now becoming like a legitimate threat because that 3 attack actually helped it so much because now it loses to so much less removal. It is a very robust and durable turn 2 threat, which means that Fox has consistent answers and scary things on like all of the early turns. Like turn 1, you got like your flashbang, your saber. Oh no, Demon Pact. Or even if you weren't holding it, you can like go flashbang saber into your turn 2 Sworn Oni. Or like you can turn 1 Fox Familiar, and now that is like a super abusive threat because they're like, well, I already needed to remove it because like quest, but even if like I bad dreams it, okay, well shoot, they could Demon Pact it, and like even if I like wither it or like do some other things, like say like they don't like buff it back like Fire Sword, or if it stays alive, then like all of a sudden Fox gets all of this explosive pressure off of Sworn Oni because now they have a 3/5, and 3/3 that's going to draw more things. Even if like you pop chill on that, they still have 1 point of attack. Even if you do all of that, this would be a list that could hypothetically run Blaze of Glory like really late in the game. So like you have to remove their things. Fury Mask could also be an option here. And outside of that, this deck has like got a lot of value options too. Stoppable Chop is here for disruption. Champ, like Trailblazer, you have so many playable fire cards now. Some of y'all might remember my slightly embarrassing fire rant a while back where I'm like, oh my gosh, we have all these fire cards and none of them work. Like, wah! And Coulter, Daddy Coulter is like, hey, so what if like we make Zumi like playable? And what if we make like Champ and Sworn Oni playable? And now it's like, oh, hey, like I can do these things really consistently. Another cool thing is that pretty much turn 3 every game, if you like went first, or I guess at 4 mana if you went second, Run Wild is always a threat from the stack. Because you can like just rip Run Wild and Trailblazer or Shogun or Hannah, or even just like rip your Cube Junior out of your deck. You don't really want to rip Halcyon because like opportunity cost of value, but this deck can generate so much value just by having a fire card in hand. Hot Doge Fire Rune is a massive amount of removal. Fire Rune Sworn Oni turn 5 is buffing up something +2/+2. It's finding 2 cards out of your deck. It's giving your hero banner. You can get these really fat units with like Shogun, like Axolotl. Huntaro is here just because it's a good card. Land the game, even if like you Huntaro and you lose your Trailblazer, like you still got a card out of your deck. You still dealt damage. You still developed board. At that point in the game, you really just want to like find your Catch and Vlad. And honestly, this deck is just it's explosive. Explosive is the best word for it. Because if you get like your opening and you have so many different routes to getting quote unquote your opening that you can just stack pressure on people. It is very cool and very fun. Sworn Oni change. Very, very good. Thank you, Coulter. Next up, I need to begrudgingly, because of results, place 1 above it, Heatwave Fox. Really hope yeah, Alpha is not here right now, because he told me a name of something else. It's Firefox, but with air cards, so you get Head in the Clouds. Talonus, Garuda, Hurricane, Gusto, Queen, and Jax. You get more stun, you get Windsword, Grunk, you also have some AM combos. I don't want to place it higher. I think Firefox is better. But Alpha has results and Firefox has yet to be played in a tournament. Although, I mean, it's basically this without it. My main issue here is like a bit of a lack of draw power. Like, you have Pandora. If your hand doesn't brick too hard, which I guess it can, you can like spin, but even when it bricks, like, your brick in the aggro matchup is fine in the control matchup because of the other things that you're doing. See a sheer amount of value, how much like shroud you have, you get to be very evasive. And also like you have Brawl to fix your hand. You have Hidden Clots. Like you've got answers here. You've got things. Moving on to upper high tier. We are really starting to get to the scary decks. Oh wait. You know, I kept thinking that I forgot a deck, and I'm like, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. I'm like, yeah, I did. Icicle Epherise. Yeah, it's supposed to be there. This is the deck that Ali plays. It's a really cool deck. It's like basically you take like Wiz and Heart units, and you put them like really high, and like you just Ether Well them, and then also you do Ancient's Rise. Just to abbreviate this really fast. Issue is Disruption. I don't know why Nico is in this list, because like that gets in the way for Evermore and your Ancient's Rise, but whatever. I guess Nico can like res Eldest with the product pack, so that's cool. But basically, like my main issue is clunkiness, consistency, and like just the breakiness of this. If you're going to do Ether Whale, I think there are better ways to do Ether Whale. Okay, so moving on is Iris Fire. Now, why Iris has a better Fire tribal deck than Fox? That irritates me. But it mostly comes down to the fact that like Wiz removal is just nutty. Oh my gosh, look at that. It's a Netter Wiz deck that plays Orchid. Can you believe it? It's almost as if Orchid is in every Wisdom deck. It's an auto-include card. Basically, this list is like just... Okay, so I play Wiz things very fast and abusive. You don't know what dusting options I have. Ooh, because I can play like so many different types of removal. Like, look at this. There is no Grim Reprisal. There's like Lightning Vial, there's Whelm, there's Whisk Away, and there's Burn Turquoise. And this like list absolutely can clap my Horic deck. It can just annihilate me. You've got cool cards in the late game. Plane Ranger and Frost Adept together is just dirty if you get that. World Tree is fat. Zumi is just fast. Menlong is good. I'm kind of repeating my points on like why I think like Wisdom is just stupid good, because they have basically like no opportunity cost for the cards that they play. Like, what deck do you not want Whiskaway in? What deck do you not want Sentry Key, Salvage, or Orchid in? Like, there are so many Wisdom cards that are just good in like every deck. It's insane. It's insane. Yeah, that right there. Slightly above it, I am going to place Iris Aggro, simply because I think it has a more dedicated and consistent game plan. When you play Iris Aggro, you're basically like, so what if we take the Wiz things that are dumb and we did them better? So now, yeah, now we've got our 2-cost stun that also fixes your hand. Grim Reprisal, Hydrate with Turn the Tide is stupid. Sworn Oni is explosive. Desire is just silly as a late game option. Oh, would you look at that? Another Wisdom deck with Orchid. It's almost as if there's never a deck that doesn't want to play Orchid. Whenever you don't do that, you're more free to like play other 2-drops like Boogie Boogie, Pistol Shrimp, which is deceptively good. I mean, like it's a 3/2 for 2, but like it takes a unit out for a turn. And also, like, y'all, Potion Seller was played long before it had Barrier, and then some jerk gave it Barrier like quite a few months ago, and everybody complained about it. and then like it never lost its barrier. Because if there's anything Wisdom needs, it's a 1-cost unit that is like really hard to remove turn 1, and also is like guaranteed value in deck thinning, and is guaranteed to like find your removal options for your draw cards. It does so many things. Fast. Turn the Tide single-handedly makes Wiz aggro one of the most effective things against control. Just because control decks, when you screw with their hand, you screw with their entire game plan. You can disrupt all of their draw, you can disrupt all of their value, and you get to refill yourself at the same time. You do so much. You do so much disruption. And now, we are into top tier. I will go ahead and check with the chat before I run through these. Lightning Vial is auto-included in Agility because Agility has minimal dusting options, and it really likes dusting options. Yeah, Euphrat, you definitely slammed my Horiclus. Also, in hindsight, I think that Horiclus was quite suboptimal. I've made several changes and improvements. But also, there's actually 2 Horiclus that you have to be careful of. Yeah, we've been holding a good number of viewers the whole time. That makes me really happy. Okay, so starting off, let me make sure that, like, oh my gosh, I missed a lot of things. You guys were supposed to like keep me in check and like rein me in. I'm like, what? Why are my tiers like so small? Like, I know I had a reason. No, you guys just wanted to like let me drabble on, and like just let me miss so many things. I'm like, why are there still so many decks down here? Okay, so mono int Nakamask. That is above this guy. Let me swipe on over to it. Yeah, so Nakamask gets to play Mask without playing Mask. Because you literally just play Nakamoto. You dust every metal spell currently in existence. And you play Cobalt and you get Iron Mask for free. It's stupid. It's really stupid. I don't like it at all. Because I don't like decks that are like, my win con is eventually drawing a win con. That's all this deck is. Like, literally all of this is just trying to thin your deck as fast as possible, and then your win con is eventually drawing a win con. And I hate how consistent that can be. Because, like, you can very easily just draw, like, a Hide Shield, and then, like, a Hive and a Timber, and, like a Shell Officer and a Gemini. Or because, like, there are only 80 cards that you're drawing from, and you send so many. Like, if you have Seek, you can out of deck a Flood Water. You can just get Flood Water for free. That's so stupid. I hate it. It's so stupid. But, like, consistency is the issue. Also, the fact that, like, aggro decks can actually come back and beat that with, like, Imposter. Keep it down. Next up is Unicorn Banjo. This right here is basically, in my opinion, the grand sum. Where did I place this? I'll put it one more. It's right here. It's basically the grand sum of all the Ether Whale decks or the Puppet Master decks, because, well, it plays both. Plays Puppet Master, plays Ether Whale, and also does Twist and Turn, which is just a garbage card. I hate Twist and Turn. It's like, oh, you allowed me to have a single unit on board. Time for Amaruath. And that's like turn 5. It's so fast. It's so stupid. Like, the counterplay is you can't let your opponent play any board. The deck building restriction is not really existent, because, like, why in a Wiz deck would you even bother playing early? Oh, hey, look, Orchid. It's almost as... So, yeah. You get to like accelerate out just these wacky fast threats. Call to mind eventually like out of decks through a Floodwater, if you're so inclined. You just have good answers for like all of the game. The only way you really lose with this is like if somebody is just jamming like rapid fast aggro, like really fast aggro, and you just don't hit your answers. Like if you don't hit mutate for the Halcyon, if you don't hit mulch for the Fox Familiar, if you don't hit like your salvage Seal of Doom, if you don't hit that, then like yeah, you'll probably lose to aggro. But even then, you can still come back because like if you hit Shell Officer really early, then like that's just good. Also, a quick question. I wonder why Dual Boot is not in here. Chat, if we can figure out why Dual Boot is not in this deck, I would appreciate that. So, like, maybe you don't want to Dual Boot a Puppet Master? But, like, that seems like what you want to do. I wouldn't mind Dual Booting Puppet Master. Huh. Yeah, what other things are there in here? CD Control. This is Shapungo's deck that he plays whenever he's not being just awful. It basically revolves around... This is a deck that is one of those 20% of the time I just win. Because, like, I'm going to bother going in because I won't talk about this one too much. It's like Sick Burn. Oh, I dropped Hydrex. Okay, and then we wait, and then Glacial Tomb Buckler up. Good game. Good game. And, like, that's it. When it doesn't do that, it still kind of cheats a lot, but it doesn't really cheat in the abusive ways that, like, Unicorn Banjo does. That's why I put, like, Unicorn Banjo up here and this guy, like, down here. Because, like, if these two match up, like, my money is on Unicorn Banjo to win most of the time. I'd say it's maybe, like, a 55-45 matchup. But this deck does actually play, like, a pretty fair early game. Warlock is a really cool card for this deck, because it does a lot of things. Not sure about Castus, though, but Shapungo swears by it. And also, what really sets this deck apart is just a sheer number of times that you can loop Hydrex. Because, like, Hydrex, Souls, Soulforge, Second Chance, Managed Memory, Necrotic Pact, Illusion, Great Glacial Tomb. Why are all of those 3 costs, by the way? I remember when, like, everything was 4 costs, and now everything is 3 costs. But, like, you're very reliant on that, and playing as Hork, I've had too many games where I was just able to dust Hydrex that, like, his combos didn't really matter. So that's why I place it low. It can definitely brawl with a lot of the list up here. It's too fair. It does too many fair things. When you look at CD Control and you compare it to like Unicorn Banjo, you're like, maybe I'm messing up by playing too many units. Like I should really just be consolidating and just doing the stupid crap. So first off, in the bottom of S tier is what I think is probably the best mid-range deck in the game, and mid-range is a very generous term for this deck, because I don't know what else to call it. And that is Swapco's beautiful, beautiful Unrise deck. This deck is so cool, and it is very robust. So basically, the whole game plan here is you got like a lot of one-cost units, like a lot of them, and then you unfallow to clean your graveyard before you just smack Ancient's Rise, and you play just a crap ton of value on board. The whole time you're playing strength units, so like you've got these really aggressive, well-statted units. Hope is statted like a strength unit. And then like you kind of just run through things. You run through things pretty easily with this deck. Now, this guy right here, he can lose to a lot of the things in like upper, high tier, and high tier. But he is going to absolutely stomp everything beneath it. And even then, against these matchups, like, a lot of these units that he cares about just don't get removed easily. Like, everything is sticky. Like, Bruno is a 3-4 for 3. Casket, like, dies to Burn and Curse, but other than that, not much. He's got a lot of robust draw power. Eclipse has lead, so it's just consistent. Forest Heart is mad stats. It's also another unfellow. Hammerhead lets him control board against control. Rumbo has to be dusted, or it's just going to be more value. And honestly, I don't even think that this specific list is that good. Like, I would take out, like, call to action, and I might try and cut some other things, because I'm pretty sure that you could legitimately run Grave Royal in this list, which would just be insane. Because like, look at this. Like, you already have things that you like to be Grave Roiling over. Like, you've got Crypto, you've got like your Mana Pot, you've got Casket, you've got Eclipse. And Polar Bear, off of a Royal, you may need to cut Violet, but like, oh no, 1+1 cost unit for me to worry about unfollowing. Polar Bear can out of deck like a Seek. Or, wow, really? Yeah, Polar Bear can out of deck a Wrath after a Royal, which can just absolutely end some games. And like, I haven't really tested that, but already just looking at the results that this list has, which I honestly think is like a suboptimal list, that is crazy. That is crazy. And Swapko is also an amazing player. Always have to keep in mind, everybody's list, who I'm saying here, they're all like great players. They all like have beaten me several times. But I just look at this list and I'm like, this list, it does a lot of great things. You've got Cache, you've got Removal. Chainstorm is an amazing disruption card. One of the best answers against Hork control, which I think is very relevant, obviously. And yeah, this list does a lot of cool things. Next up is my personal Hork control deck. And I could babble, I could talk about Hork control and the ins and outs and everything for hours. I'm just not going to. So Hork control is very good. This is the one that like I think is the general go-to list. This is something that like I've kind of been screwing with because I've had some very obtuse ideas. Generally speaking, your game plan is Grave Royal. It's just Grave Royal. Always has been. You play a lot of Death Effect units. You got like your Flame Phoenix. You got Mummy's Healing. Levitt is wacky good. And like I said earlier, this list is mostly heart cards. So why Strength? A few things. Aether Mask for draw. Rumbo, because it's good. Aether Mask also finds all of these beautiful Earth units that you then get the Buckler up and you just get to do wacky anima combos. And also Dracomantium. Dracomantium is a good card that has a few conditions, but if your deck manages to meet those conditions, you can like jam Dracomantium every game. First off, Dracomantium will not save you every time you play it. Just accept that now. It is not going to be a godsend card. What it will do is increase all of the healing that you do by at least 1 for the rest of the game, which is very good with your mummies. On top of that, Dracomantium is going to like just shut down board and is going to stop chip damage. One of the biggest things in this game is the fact that every turn as a control player, you are bleeding health. Dracomantium stops that. And if you get Dracomantium down early, especially in a control mirror, you've just secured a massive amount of health. And in Skyweaver, with out-of-deck mechanics, you can much more easily convert health to card advantage than like in any other game. That's huge. On top of that, you also have Titanic and Evermore, which is just going to do things. I play Temple Watch, and I used to not run Hydrex because the Vipers get in the way. And then like all of you guys started being super lame and dusting my Titanic or like dusting my Temple Watch. So like now I'm at the point where like, fine, I'll play Temple Watch, I'll watch you dust it, and then I'll play Hydrex anyways. And it's like, get pwned, loser. Or like, even if Temple Watch does survive and you only get a Viper, like you can do something with that. Necrotic Pact, I guess? I don't know. It's just a solid list. It does all of the control things. It heals a lot. You have strengths like single target removal, which I don't run too much. You could easily run more. You've got ways to get past barrier and armor because Heart is really good at doing that. You've got your Blue Moon. You've got a lot of draw power. You've got a lot of things that can all happen together. Only issue is that this deck can occasionally brick because you've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let me count it up here. 8, 9, 10 different cards that like you just don't want on any early turn. But the draw engine can be so robust and you can sometimes ramp out of those bricks that I think it mitigates it enough to where that doesn't really take it out of tier. I think that is very good. It is just very durable, and it has a lot of viable cards that it can swap between to work with. Lemmy, you already freaking took my other Horror list. Like, just make your own. Also, help me go back to it. I'm pretty sure that, like, I literally made it before the thing, because I'm playing an entirely different Horror list than the one that I just told you guys was really good. Because the one I'm playing right now, I'm, like, testing things. Okay, so, like, here's the reality of work. Like, these cards in the middle here, these, like, 20 cards go into, like, every Horror deck. The only thing that changes is, like, what the other 10 cards are. So, like, if you play Hydrex or if you play Undragon, if you play Wrath, if you play, like, an Earth combo with Jar Souls, if you play Buckler Up, or if you, like, play more early cards, if you play, like, Pyrocraft or Forest Fall. Like, the key of the deck is just having these Death units, Titanic and Draco, you have Evermore, and then you have Royal. Everything else is optional. It just changes what you're doing in the middle of the game. Oh, yeah, if you were in Fox Gang, I'd give it to you. But, sorry, man, you decided not to. Can't believe freaking dogs. Like, I meet new people, and I'm just like, hi, you seem really nice. I'm like, I'll probably ask him later. And GoodDog is, like, walking up to people with pamphlets. He's like one of those, Jehovah's Witnesses at the airport. Like, would you like to hear a good word about our Lord and Savior Dog Pound? And he's just, like, converting people into his cult left and right. It is so obnoxious. So obnoxious. Hate it. Next up is the best combo deck in the game, Iris Banner. This deck basically does all of the things that Dragon Combo does, but like it actually works. It works really well. So right off the bat, I'm just going to say, the only way you counter this deck is by like piling Doomshrooms and Flame Phoenixes on the board on their combo turns. So that way, whenever they one punches, it kills your Doomshroom and it kills their birds. Other than that, if they have their combo, you're basically screwed. No amount of guard will save you. No amount of healing is going to save you, because they can do so much damage on the full combo. Especially with, like, Salvage Key and the cost reduction. Whenever I play Hork and I go up against Freud, my game plan is heal, 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 and heal. And also probably try and get Draco in there somewhere, but other than that, if I don't get that, I am done for. Cloud Sloth is obnoxious. Okay, other than Funeral Moon, there is, like, no way to remove this card. You have to, like, play a Titanic to kill this thing if you don't have Funeral Moon. And honestly, against this deck, like, they have Cube Jr., which is just stupid good. So, like, I basically am already used on my Funeral Moon. They have all of the wacky early Wiz removal, and he could be going even more dust heavy if he wanted to. The issue is, like, okay, so, like, you have to run dead cards, right? Okay, so we have Mountain Lion, Flock, One Punches, Honk. Oh, wait, and that's it. That's only 4 cards. Instead of play like the 5-6 cards that you need for Dragon Combo, you can play 4 here. They also already, all of your combo pieces get cost reduced by Heaven Clouds. Just great. Oh my, would you look at that? It's another Wiz deck with Orchid. You just, like, and because of that, you just are so much more free to do things. Like, he doesn't even need to mulligan combo, because, like, he can get his stuff cheap enough, he can ramp up enough, he's fine. This list right here, also, because, like, it's Wiz, combo is supposed to lose to Aggro, but when every combo deck is in Wisdom, every combo deck has all of the tools to deal with Aggro. It's so obnoxious. It's like he can just, like, bully it through. Like, he's not even running Salvage in here. Like, if he's running Salvage Key, he just blasts through it. Maelstrom just wins the control matchup. Just wacky. Oh, yeah, best combo deck other than Zam. This is the best legitimate combo deck. Yeah, I'm going to approach them because I don't like. I'm not going to ask everybody to join Fox Gang like as soon as I run into them. I find that obnoxious. I Find that rude. But what would a dog know about kindness? Okay, so best aggro deck in the game. Unophobia, easy. Except, this is not really an aggro deck. This is a control deck that plays a million cards and punches your face. Okay, so yeah, it's an aggro deck. No, Zam is not legit. Zam is about as legitimate as Russia taking over Crimea. That's their legitimacy. It's about as legitimate as the Chinese Communist Party. So like, this deck just vomits cards. It plays every card in its deck, and it decks out on like turn 10. And then you know what's turn 11? Hacks. Unophobia. Let's just pull up the stats real quick. That's 15 damage. Let's count it up. So I actually don't have that memorized. It's 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. That's like... Oh, wait, forgot the one on hacks. 24. If you just play the entire deck, that is 24 damage. That is insane. That is insane. And like... it's so gross. Because, like, since you're drawing so many cards with this deck, since you're doing so many things every turn, you can outdraw control decks. You can outdraw combo decks. You can muscle past all of their AoE removal. And you can, like, blast through all of their units. Because, like, you have access to, like, half the cards in your deck at any given point. Just because of the sheer amount of draw you have. You can vomit your entire hand and then go, oh, lol, Cookbook Blitz. And then just be good. Like, so many things in this deck just link up into other decks. And the disruption that this deck has is great. Huntaro is an amazing card, and this deck really capitalizes on it, because off of Huntaro, you can find Angler or Cobalt, Mad Hat, which is just like sitting your deck more, or just like tempo. It's just raw tempo. Dr. Vile is clogging the control player's hand and basically like dealing 9 damage to them if they have to use them. I have found that sometimes you can get away with overdrawing the vials, but that is a very risky strategy, because those vials will come back eventually. Imposter is just a great stun card. Pandora resets. Shrink Ray is just silly good removal. Especially, like, okay, a light should not be an int. A light does not belong in the prism that has Zam in it. That is so stupid. Because, like, you basically just get Zam every game in that. And for Agiant, you get to find what? Your Blitz or your Shrink Ray. You either get your single target removal that kills anything in the game, bar armor, or you get your Wacky Reload that just draws you 3 cards. Oh, kinda need that card. Top of that, you also got Mother Ephra, which can just shut down aggro players turn 8. And you also got Plane Ranger, which is just like free damage. This deck is so good. Gives me nightmares. And finally, y'all knew this coming. Okay, so before I started really putting this together, I was actually not going to place this here. I was going to put Unophobia first because it's an aggro deck that gets like 24 damage every game. It's actually going to place it like here. And I thought, okay, so I like pretty much just play Horde. I don't play aggro decks because Unophobia to me is gross. Alpha is an amazing player. He makes it work. But Unophobia to me is just gross because you get so much free damage off of one card. And like, it shuts down other aggro decks because of how much drawing it does. And I'm like, you know, Chapungo in tournament, like off of a impromptu combo with like basically no setup other than playing Magnanimous, was able to do like 39 damage in a turn. Yeah. So this whole deck is predicated upon the idea of playing Zam with a lot of very cheap spells, usually 0 cost spells, dusting all of them and doing damage, and then when that doesn't work, you also have Hacks, because Hacks is just free damage. Maybe this card needs another look, because like, it's just free damage. It's so good. Like, compare this to Phoenix and Fireball, and consider the difference. Anyways, you do all of this. Tempest Brew is another wacky card that maybe we should look at again. You play Zam, you play Electron, and you just start going ham on the damage. Oh look, Wiz, Orchid, wow. So you have all of these very cheap, efficient spells, which works way too well, because like he's literally just playing every one-cost spell that he can. And like they're all good. They're all good. So basically you do that, you just cheat out Magnanimous super early. And if you even like have all the time in the world, you can like Curious and Machine Gun out like Zam spells just back to back. Now I play Horic, so this deck is actually not that big of a problem for me. Because I can heal, and then play Dracomantium. And I can overpower the Zam combo just through raw force of will and hero armor. Against literally any other deck that is not playing Dracomantium, this thing can just win. And honestly, I don't even think this list is that good. Like, I would be playing Soulforge in here, because now you lose the zap on your Zam. But also, your Zam is like 5 cost or 4 cost instead of 7. You could be doing so many more combos with that. And you can also play your Electron first, and then Soulforge, and oh wow, you get your zap back. Honestly, God, this whole thing, it's so disgusting. So disgusting. And the worst part about Zam to me is like I'm fine with combo decks that just backbreak control, because I don't like it when control decks play too long. But Zam is way too effective at being able to deal with aggro decks. This, in my opinion, is what fundamentally like breaks things. Combo decks, which spend the whole game basically stalling, drawing, and then setting up their wacky like 40 damage combos or whatever, they shouldn't lose to deck, or they should be losing to decks that play a fast, aggressive game plan on board and want you to interact with board. The combo aggro matchup should be like 40-60 aggro's favor. Instead, because of how viable like every card in Wisdom is, they have answers to every possible aggro strategy. When you combine that with their super efficient draw ability and their cost reduction, exemplified best in a card like Orchid, they basically get to outvalue and outplay aggro and just completely win. Like, that is my issue with Wisdom. Wisdom as a prism shuts down what aggro wants to do by existing. Like, these aggro decks are not really played that much, because what if you run into a Wisdom deck? You might notice that outside of Strength, Heart, Horic, like, these guys, like, all of this is Wiz. Like, we've got Strength and Heart here, we've got Agility and Int, and then it's Wiz. And, like, we come down here, and, like, Fox is overrepresented because he has a lot of different strategies, but after that, like, the bottom of the tier list is mostly dominated by like Wiz decks that don't do Wiz things well, or things that just lose too hard to like bad matchups. The top of the tier list is dominated by either Wiz decks or things that have good matchups against Wiz decks. That is my problem with Wisdom. Other than that, though, despite like how I say things, I do really think that like the game is pretty balanced. I mean, aside from like Wisdom just being oppressive, like I think things are pretty well diversified here. I think these strategies that are down here shouldn't really be that viable. I mean, like I'd like it if Titus control was better. I'd like it if Mono Strength was better. And Mira is never played, but if she was good, it would not surprise me. Other than that, like our middle is like pretty well populated, and we have a good number of things that are very high. And I legitimately do not think that there are more than like 3 bad decks. Like everything above low tier, everything above Fox control is at least like playable and you can get results with it. And honestly, I think that's really cool. This game is really cool. Like Coulter and the dev team do a very great job of keeping up with things and balancing things. And that's part of why I love this game so much. So what do y'all think? Too much Orchid? Too much WoW? Me too, man. Me too. I would totally love to see Orchid nerfed. I'm still working on how without completely just taking the card out behind the shed. Other than that, it is 3:15. I have been streaming for 2 and almost a half hours. My throat is incredibly sore. My computer, my horrible MacBook, is about to combust in the flames. So with that, thank you guys all so much for coming. I will see you all around, and see ya in the sky.